Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
So I came across a quote that inspired today's message. It comes from Shauna Niequist, who's an author that inspired today's message. She writes a lot about welcome. I think we're ahead on the slides here. Why do I see things here? I'll just ignore what's in front of me. Thank you. Not you, I won't ignore you. Anyway, Shauna Niequist said, "True hospitality is when someone leaves your home feeling better about themselves, not better about you." What would it mean if guests, and actually everyone who comes to FUS, would leave feeling better about themselves? If instead of trying to get them to feel good about FUS, our task was to help them feel just generally good, uplifted in part because they felt that there was room here for them. Many, likely most congregations today, are worried about survival and are talking and thinking about how to attract more people, perhaps especially younger people. Or as someone lamented after Carol Rydberg's memorial service yesterday, worried that we're not doing so well at becoming a more diverse and inclusive community. In my short time with you so far, these concerns have come up repeatedly. Now, I hope that you'll let me get vulnerable with you today. Being vulnerable means that I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb, that limb out there where I feel just a little unsure that it's safe or that I'll be understood. You see, I'm not really comfortable yet in feeling that I belong here or that I trust that you trust me and vice versa. I guess that's how it might be for any newcomer. Well, you should know, of course, that I'm okay with going out on limbs as a general rule. I don't mean that literally, because the possibility of falling from high places really scares the bejeebers out of me. But interpersonally, being vulnerable is okay, safe enough. And I know that not everyone is okay with those kind of limbs, and that my comfort is in part a privilege of my social location. So I do feel called upon to model vulnerability whenever possible, because I believe that humility mixed with authenticity makes it possible for us to learn and to grow. And in my case, I really want to embrace the fullness of my humanity. So, do you make room for others here and try to help them feel better about themselves? Multiple times, in an effort to tell me about you, you've told me what's not welcome here, which particular words are acceptable, how long assembly can be, when people are willing or not willing to gather, even the reasons that you're unsure of being Unitarian Universalist, about being Unitarian Universalist, and would prefer identifying as humanist. In many ways, this tells a newcomer, like me, even me, what they have to do to fit into the box that is FUS. Now, this is not all bad. You have a strong and relatively singular identity, and for good or ill, even something of a reputation. Your identity as capital H humanist is not completely synonymous with the big tent of Unitarian Universalism, although it surely occupies an important corner of it. You are holding up some important umbrellas, but for sure, they have some qualifiers. Now, of course, this is true for every congregation, every community. Everyone has a boxed-in identity that can be a barrier to inclusion. And that's a part of why congregations everywhere are dwindling, because there's not room for new ways of being. And the companion truth is that, as is true for every UU congregation I've ever experienced, most of you are here because you've felt at home here. You stay because this is your home. You belong. There's room under this umbrella for you. And the idea of changing that to include others is an existential threat. And even as I say that, I come to better understand the attitude toward immigrants being expressed in so many parts of this country and even in this city. The fact that newcomers may change who we are and the way of life that we've created can be felt as a threat. Now, wow, it is hard for me to talk about this without worrying that I'm making you out to be the bad guys. And that is not how I feel, nor is it my intent. There is really good reason to be clear about what FUS is and consequently who would feel welcome and at home here. You have, or should have, an established and well-articulated identity, which in turn determines the size and the shape of your umbrella. You know, there's some danger in an infinitely large umbrella. Because no one finds meaning or protection under it, it simply can't be held up for long. And the trick is to find that sweet spot between having a clear identity and accepting that some things need to change in order to be more welcoming, to be better hosts, to help others to feel that this is their home too. Now, here's a fascinating and difficult thing. Welcome and exclusion have similar operating systems. They're both systems based in mutuality. Welcome benefits both the host and the guest. Exclusion harms them both. Many of us have felt excluded by others, by society, by mainstream culture, and have found acceptance and home within this congregation or within Unitarian Universalism. But because of having been exiled ourselves, I think similar to those who learn at the hands of their abuser that love is abusive, we create a sense of home for ourselves by excluding others, by creating boxes. As Cole Arthur Riley, a Black author and poet, tells us, if we are the hands of exclusion for long enough, we learn that we are accepted only because someone else is being excluded. In other words, we tend to push people out in order to feel secure and to claim the space as ours. What a twisted web, eh? I have long been fascinated by the concept of we and our. I find myself saying we far too often, and I try to stop myself, but it's such a useful concept. You know, we means community. We means you and me. We means togetherness. We means common understanding. It's such a cozy and a good-feeling word, but we also assumes common understanding or experience when this is not the case. We draws a kind of boundary and creates an us and a them. And we form the boxes that make exclusion and even discrimination possible. Now, Bart DeLange and Philip Fernbach, in an article published in the Harvard Business Review, okay, let me pause right there. I wonder who such a citation helps to feel as if they belong, or maybe to feel that this isn't home. How would it have been different if I had instead cited a Facebook meme, or maybe even a Bible verse? In every moment, we signal who belongs and who doesn't. But anyway, DeLange and Fernbach say that there are several dangers of categorical thinking, that kind of we thinking. It can lead us to treat members of a group as if they are more alike than they are, or to exaggerate differences between members of different groups. It can make us favor certain groups over others, and it can lead us to think of certain groups as static, unchanging, which then means we lose our curiosity about them or give them the privilege of changing. And we, see, there I go again, we use categorical thinking to define ourselves. We put ourselves into a box that excludes others just by virtue of whatever descriptions or assumptions we have used to build that box. And This interim period is going to be full of trying to identify who and what FUS is, which ultimately is going to try to put this congregation in some kind of a box which has the potential or even the certainty to exclude someone's. But maybe, part of your identity can also be that of people trying to expand the size of your umbrella, to make the sides of your box more permeable by making more room. Maybe that could happen if you choose. You know, we humans tend to experience a sense of belonging when we feel like we are like those around us, or that they're like us. This may be one of the next great lessons humanity has to unlearn. In an increasingly pluralistic world, in an ongoing quest for greater diversity in our communities, we will need to learn how to belong when those around us seem different, or are different. We will need to learn how to be welcoming even to those who maybe don't seem like us, don't seem like us or at least based on our existing prejudices and categories. And how do we do this? Well, a few years ago, I saw an image on Facebook describing 3 zones of being in concentric circles. The first, the inner one, the yellow one in the picture, is the zone of comfort. It's that right-sized umbrella, which is just the right height for us. We don't get wet, maybe we don't even get sprinkled on. There's plenty of room for us and the people like us, whatever that means. The second circle, the green one, is the stretch zone. This is where one expands out of our usual places, tries on new things, experiments. Here's composers they've never heard before. It's not completely comfortable, but nor is it dangerous. No matter how connected, how well-traveled, how adventurous one might be, each of us has a stretch zone. There's always something beyond what we know, what's familiar. But then there's that outside circle, the panic zone. That's the place a little bit too far, because being there is rarely generative or helpful. Maybe out there is where your identity as a community is so unclear that you're not able to focus on your mission and you lose your way. It's that space where you can't breathe, where there's reason to panic. So the goal is to try to exist as much as possible in the stretch zone, where you can question assumptions, expand your horizons, mix it up, get uncomfortable until you're comfortable, and then stretch again. One can do this by entering into spaces where you've never been, by asking questions to understand rather than to judge or affirm your assumptions, by spending time with those people whose life experiences are not like yours. And that's all well and good when we think about going out from our own comfort zone. But how might we welcome the other who comes into our own space, that person who occupies the pew next to you, who is new, unfamiliar, maybe likely in their own stretch zone just by being here? Here are a few examples of how too often that plays out. Hey, welcome. Did you know that we have an E2 program during our service? You could take your children there now. Perhaps helpful information, if E2 means anything to them, or if they happen to be parents who are comfortable leaving their children with people they don't know, and maybe then only if their children don't have any separation anxiety, or it might imply their kids aren't even welcome. Or, hey, welcome. What? Where's the sanctuary? Oh, we don't call it that here. And by the way, don't use words like hymns or church or God. Descriptive. Certainly that's descriptive, but what does it tell folks who maybe are familiar and comfortable with those words? Or, hey, welcome, it's so great to see the younger generation here. Why don't you get more of your friends to come? Or, hey, welcome, it's so good to see you. We don't get many people of color here. We really want to be more diverse, so it's great that you're here. Both of those welcomes code for, You know, you're welcome here if you can be useful to how we see ourselves. Every one of these examples seeks to describe the FUS box, and it centers the welcomer. It does not center the person being welcomed. So instead, how might we welcome our guests by paying attention to this other who has stepped under our umbrella even for a moment? How might we stay curious and learn about who they are and what feeds their minds and their soul? You know, we could ask how their family can have the best experience possible here. We could ask what brought them here and what they're looking for. We could offer to help them find that and to answer whatever questions they have, to learn about them rather than telling them about who we is, that we that exists here. I think there's some wisdom in just wondering how it feels to be them and being curious about what would help them to even get a whiff of belongingness and to feel better about themselves. Because this in and of itself can take us into that zone of stretch, because we're entering into somebody else's reality and letting go of the hold on our own. Now, I am not asking you to let go of who you are, but rather to let go of the hold on who you are. In order to be more inclusive, we need to make the space for others, be that a younger generation or people of color, or for all varieties of social, political, economic realities. We need to make the space for them to shape their own unique expression of Unitarian Universalism and humanism. In a word, many of us need to move over. It will not be comfortable at first. It may feel like your sense of home is being challenged, but indeed, how can we welcome others in, here, at your own home, anywhere, without expecting our space to change and morph, and maybe even become that kind of lovingly inclusive and welcoming community, such as we cannot yet even imagine? May everyone who enters these doors or who joins us online, whether a newcomer or a longtime member, know that they are loved and embraced for exactly who they are, and that there is room for them under this umbrella. We might even offer them an umbrella for them to hold up for others if they wish. May it be so.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.